So the rest of the program until now will go as follows. I'll introduce the league president. After her, we'll turn it over to Matt Dixon and Tom Hanson, who are city managers by day and this apparently by weekend, city manager of South Ogden and Washington Terrace. And then we'll turn it over to Justin Lee, who is the league's director of government relations, and he'll be presenting from the Orem site. With that, it's my honor and privilege to introduce the league president this year, South Jordan Mayor Dawn Ramsey. Mayor Ramsey wears multiple hats. She is a community icon both in South Jordan and really throughout the region. In addition to being the president of the league, she's involved in many of the organizations that I referenced before lunch, from Wasatch Front Regional Council to EDC Utah. She just won re-election a few weeks ago, so she'll be starting her second term. But even though she's only been a one-term mayor, she is incredibly influential at the Capitol, and she dedicates a tremendous amount of time to cities across the state. She's your ally. She's a great advocate for you, and it's my honor to have her as the league president. So, Mayor Ramsey.
That is very kind. Thank you. Thank you so much. I am just really grateful for the chance to be here, and thanks. I had to do a double take. I thought, is that who I thought it was? So anyway, it's good. You guys look awesome. Thank you for being here and for participating. Thank you to all of you joining us from across the state, and welcome. Congratulations. At this point in the day, some of you might be thinking, what in the world have I signed up for, right? What have I agreed to? What? You're using acronyms that I'm going to need a dictionary. We really do need an acronym dictionary just for local government. So you'll get it. Eventually, it will make more sense. And hopefully people will remember to use the full-on words at first, because it gets really easy in the nomenclature of local government to just turn to acronyms everywhere. I promise it gets easier, and it will make more sense, and you'll get to know all of the organizations and the people and the things that we're talking about today. It does. And 4 years into it, I'm like, okay, it's good. I've got it. Yeah, you'll get it. It's good. Thank you to all of you for your willingness to serve. Thank you for your willingness to step up and be part of your community. We used to have this mantra, if you will, that was often taught in so many political science classes. And Tip O'Neill, back when he was the Speaker of the House, I think, is when he said all government is local. We live in a time now where so many of the residents that we represent and so many people believe all government is federal. And I don't know about you, but I had more questions about federal and social issues during this last campaign that just ended. It was a completely different situation than 4 years ago. 4 years ago, people wanted to know my thoughts on land use, zoning, planning, roads, open space. That is not what people asked me about this time. They wanted to know about social issues and federal issues. All government really is local. We have the opportunity to do the best work that there is to do. Governor Herbert always used to say, local government is where the rubber meets the road. And it is. And what you've agreed to do, what you offered yourself to do to the residents of your communities, is to really have the greatest impact on the everyday situations in their lives. You have the chance to do the greatest good that will influence their lives and impact families across the state of Utah for good in a way that's more significant than anything else. Every level of government has its role, and they're all important things. But we have a special opportunity here in local government to really, really touch the lives of the residents that we serve, which also means they're going to stop you at the elementary school, at the high school, at the grocery store, at church, and everywhere else you might go. At the soccer games, football games, you're going to get stopped everywhere. And that's okay, because they know you, and people want to know that they have an ally, that they have an advocate, that they have somebody who doesn't feel far removed, who they know as a friend, as a person in their community, who they feel like they can turn to so that they're heard and so that their voice matters. And it's not easy, because sometimes the people you love are going to have a different opinion than you do, and the vote you make will be different than what they wanted you to make. You'll never be able to make everybody happy. But you can do your best. You can explain your reasoning behind your vote, and you can do your best to listen and to involve, because I think if people feel listened to, it gives them more confidence in the decision, even if it's not the decision they wanted, right? At least they know you cared and you listened and it mattered to you. I am grateful for the chance to get to serve as president of the league this year, to work with all of you and to represent all of you. And it's really an honor to have a seat at the table on behalf of the League of Cities and Towns in so many different places. And so if there's ever anything that I can do, I want you to reach out. My goal this year, while I have the chance to serve as president, is to bring the league to all of you. We have some of you who are here with us who were able to travel and be here in Taylorsville today. And then we have 175 of you around the state who are listening in and joining us remotely. I love that we live in a day with technology that allows for that. I think that's marvelous. But I really want to be able to come to you. I want to meet you. I want to hear from you. I want to hear your concerns. I want to try to help answer any questions or see if we can't come to some answers or ideas for some of the challenges you might be facing. Let's try to come up with solutions. I want you to know that being part of the league, the Utah League of Cities and Towns, matters, and we need your participation. We have strength in numbers. We are a very influential organization up at the state legislature, and the strength in numbers matters. Having your voice matters. And we do have a representative. You probably went over this, but there's a representative from every region. Every single one of you has someone representing you on the league board of directors. Find out who that person is. If you don't know, we'll make sure you know. You can find out. It's not hard to find out. Find out who represents you on the league board, because we meet regularly and make decisions. We've got the legislative priorities committee that we go through policy, and there's a lot of opportunities to be involved and engaged and to make sure that your community does have a voice. I just want you to know you're not in this alone. We're all in this together. And one thing that I think is really beautiful about local government, in my experience, is that we don't compete against each other. We're not here to one-up you or to keep you from succeeding in this way. Local government works together. We really tend to work together. So if you have questions, if you have anything that you need help with or need advice on or anything you're wondering, you've probably got great in-house people and other peers on your council that you serve with. But you can reach out to other communities, reach out to others who have done it before you, who are serving in other ways. You'd be amazed how many similarities there are. We're different. Each community is different. And Wasatch Front and urban is different than rural, but you'd be surprised at how similar our challenges are. I've really, really enjoyed working with my colleagues who are from very different city situations or different sized towns, because we've really been able to come together and go, yeah, this is a challenge for both of us. It's in a different way. It looks a little different, but it's a challenge for all of us. So let us work together. We welcome your input. We beg for your input. We want to hear from you, and we want you to be involved. Please join us and be part of the League of Cities and Towns. Congratulations again, and thank you for being here with us today, and wish you the best of luck and look forward to meeting as many of you as humanly possible this year. Please come participate with us. Thank you so much.
And now, live from Taylorsville, Utah, broadcast over KGOV Radio, a special afternoon edition of Tom and Matt in the Morning.
Thank you, John. It's delightful to be with everybody this morning. This afternoon thing, man, it can throw you a curveball.
Unbelievable. We've made it.
We made it. We are at the big show now.
This is incredible. I mean, it feels so good to be broadcasting somewhere other than your basement, right?
You know, it's a gift. Once we kicked out my 40-year-old son and took over his room for our podcast, this is good.
I'm sure we're going to talk housing today at some point.
We will.
In the Utah League, but you're right. We both have sons.
Is this mic working as well? Can we hear okay throughout the system?
They'll check.
Okay.
Mine seems really loud.
You know, you are the dominant voice.
Hey, I'm sorry, but before we get started, Cam did insist that I read something as we get started today. I believe Todd Godfrey probably had some role in this, but I also assume it's kind of standard.
It's boilerplate, I'm sure.
League kinds of procedure. So let's cover this so we can get the show started.
Okay.
The views, expressions, comments, and information you're about to hear do not necessarily reflect those of the Utah League of Cities and Towns, its board of directors, or its employees. Prolonged exposure to this content has proven to reduce the IQ of lab rats. The only animals harmed in the production of this program are those who contributed to the Cafe Rio carne asada burritos that were consumed during the presentation preparation. Listen at your own risk. Listener discretion advised.
Oh yeah, that's boilerplate.
I mean, I'm pretty sure the Utah League has everybody read something similar.
Everyone does
before the training. So
there's no question. Well, you know what? We have got a great show today.
Yeah, excited.
I am too. This
is going to be fun.
It is weird to have the sun up when we're talking and be in the middle of the day.
Yeah,
But this is going to be a good chat.
it's going to be fun. So the topic, Tom, let's follow the slides here for a sec.
Why follow the slides?
Well, I just need to make sure that the crowd knows we're talking infrastructure.
Oh yeah, yeah. All the stuff that's above, below, beneath, supporting stuff in your city.
Yeah. And we are going to be kind of high level, right?
Okay.
The crowd here is newly elected officials. So if you're expecting like a deep dive in how do we go analyze the capacity of our water utility, first off, you and I couldn't even speak for 5 minutes about that.
No,
Let's be honest.
no.
So that's probably why they invited us.
To be public
We're-
works directors.
Yes, we're good at the simple, high level kinds of
Yeah.
things. So hopefully today, the listeners that are the millions, I understand millions of listeners,
I understand there's at least 12.
will be able to, well, that's more than just our wives and our mothers,
I know.
which is new for us.
I know.
So it's great.
It is.
So yeah, hopefully we'll have some things that the audience can take away and go back and just have a better understanding of kind of the importance of this topic.
It is. Well, with that in mind, Matt, tell me a little bit about what your background is in this business and why we even have this conversation. I mean, our morning shows vary, but they're usually government issues and stuff.
Yeah,
Why
absolutely.
Infrastructure, man. What's going on?
Well, I mean, infrastructure is pretty key as we will discuss. And I've been involved in local government for 25 years. But I've worked for the incredible cities of Centerville, South Salt Lake, South Weber, and currently I'm in South Ogden City. I've been a city manager for 16 of those 20 something years. And when did how long ago, when did we meet?
We got acquainted probably close to 20 years ago, at least.
You were,
Well, early on, I was building stuff. Grew up in the business, went into parks and recreation. So I am an evolution in the making from Parks and Rec to
Good.
city manager. Isn't that amazing? But spent a time as assistant city manager over public works. So we'll be talking about some of my favorites today.
so you were in West Point.
I was in West Point for a while, and in Roy.
When I was in
and
South Weaver, that's where I
Yes.
think we first met.
Yep, that's where we first met.
Awesome.
So shall we move right along?
Yeah,
We gotta
let's
jump off this cliff.
Let's
shall
do
we?
it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Well, what do we mean when we say infrastructure? That's fun.
How did we end up all the way back there?
I don't know. It just goes around.
Oh, it's always fun. Okay, so we're talking about infrastructure, and really we're talking about everything that keeps your city moving.
Okay.
You think about the idea that if you walk on it, if you drive it, if you take it away, you're bringing in clean water, you're taking out naughty water, you're moving storm water, you've got parks, you've got everything that's involved in making a city happen. We're going to talk about it.
Okay. So pretty broad topic.
It's going to be huge. I mean, even some cities have airports.
Right.
Go figure.
Right. And some have their own power utility.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And some cities have
Everything
fiber.
Yep.
Right. And some, right. So
Fiber. They're so
this,
lucky.
they are so lucky. Awesome. Let's talk about infrastructure then some more. All right, first off, we like to take every little fan mail and government tidbits.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Oh my goodness. Longtime listener.
What do we got?
Mark from Saratoga Springs.
Mark Christensen, Saratoga Springs.
Oh my word.
What does
I
Mark
can't
have to
believe
say?
He got on here so quick. Thanks for being with us this morning. Oh, afternoon. It's going to be a problem all afternoon.
All
It's
afternoon.
morning. So, okay, here we go. Longtime listener to the show. Thanks for all you're doing for local government. Most of my brilliant ideas have come from listening to your show.
Quite a compliment from Mr. Christensen.
That is quite a compliment. I wanted to put in a plug for your new line of oil-infused PID bath bombs, PID Passion. He says that he takes a half a scoop of Silicone Slopes Envy, mixes it with a half a scoop of PID Passion. It truly delivers a full night's sound sleep.
That's
Keep up
awesome.
the good work, boys. Saratoga
awesome.
Springs is planning to make a sizable donation in support of your show.
Boy, that's great to hear.
Oh, bless his heart.
Love to hear. Put in a shameless plug for our new line of bath bombs and
Yeah.
oil infused.
Yeah, oil infused.
I'm going to
Love
try
it.
that. what was that? A half a scoop of Silicon Slopes Envy with a half a scoop of PID
Passion.
PID Passion
PID Passion. Yeah.
for a
What's that?
sound night's sleep.
Remind me.
That's
what's
awesome.
PID? We were talking about acronyms just a minute ago.
Absolutely.
President.
Public Improvement District.
Oh, yeah. We think we're government, but we're not.
That's
oh, okay. That's
Tom.
Okay.
Good to hear from Mark. Mark, thank you for writing in. We love to answer emails.
Okay.
But back to the topic, right? So
Yes.
Tom, something interesting that I've learned. So every year, the state of Utah has a group of engineers, a part of the American Association of Civil Engineers.
Now that's an awesome annual conference.
I'm sure that's exciting.
It's a delight.
It sounds like it. But these engineers get together and they evaluate the state's infrastructure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And they work with representatives from the committee, the national committee, and they assign a grade of the state's infrastructure.
They evaluate quite essentially the whole nation.
Yeah.
And then they also evaluate our whole state.
Awesome.
And give us.
So do we want to learn a little bit about how Utah compares?
Let's do it.
All right. Here's some information, right, from the state report card for 2024 Utah. You know, there's quite a bit of interesting information here. I mean, I didn't realize we have over 3,000 bridges.
Right.
Right. And
well,
a percentage of
266 high-risk dams.
Yeah.
Would never
266 dams in the state of Utah.
266 high-hazard ones.
Yeah. I mean, something that jumps out here, perhaps, Tom. Oops. I'm watching the wrong screen. I apologize. Okay.
Yeah.
We should have had more time to rehearse. We really should have. I told my wife this could happen. Okay. A couple things that stand out. 4.4 billion with a B.
That's a big number.
That's a huge number of drinking water infrastructure needs over the next 20 years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That one seems to jump out. How about this one at the bottom? $219 million in deferred park maintenance.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, parks being my kind of a soft spot in my heart.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's tough looking at a park, driving up and realizing that you've got a long ways to go.
Yeah.
But you know, with if you've got 4.9 billion, we just had an opportunity to apply for some grants with the state. They offered $50 million.
Is this the ARPA?
This is the ARPA money.
ARPA money, federal money.
They got applications of over $1 billion.
Wow.
In requests, and that was generally, and if not all, infrastructure. So there's some needs out there that are not being met.
Yeah,
Just for the fun
absolutely.
of it. Yeah.
A lot of needs. So looking at some more data, we've got some interesting information here. I'll tell you, this one jumped out at me. 22% of roads are in poor condition. I was surprised at how low that number is.
Really?
I mean, for my community up in South Ogden, this has been a huge problem for many years. I would say our number is probably more like 30 to 40% is what the feeling is, right?
Yeah.
And so I was kind of surprised that at the state, you know, they only had 22%, according to the report,
Right.
of roads rated in poor condition.
Well, it's interesting how bad roads cause automobile damage.
Yeah.
And how that all links together to our constituents. It's kind of an interesting and a surprising number.
$709 a year, apparently,
There you go.
per person is what the poor roads are costing us in car repairs and other problems.
It's alignment shops generally.
Yeah,
speaking,
yeah.
And windshields.
And how about $842 million in wastewater needs? I mean, these are huge numbers.
Those are big numbers.
It seems to be a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So how did Utah score? Right? We talked about the report card. How did Utah score?
I don't
So
know.
they provided a grading system. You know, A, B, C, D.
A, B, C, D.
Yeah.
So this is like a report card.
Tom, I knew you'd get a little anxious when this came
I
up.
got a little ping. So there are
Taking back
okay,
to
wait,
school days.
This is like the full report card option. I'm not used to seeing that light blue and the kind of a greenish color and that orangish color. I'm really familiar with the pink and the dark blue.
Absolutely. This
I
is
get me and Tommy boy, we go way back.
absolutely.
So there's more to the report
I'm going to
card.
keep moving on before you
Okay.
get too anxious.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
You know, PTSD from your school days.
Okay.
So the criteria that was used in this report card,
Okay.
Capacity, condition, O&M, and funding of future needs.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
You know, it's interesting when you're looking at capacity and these 4 quadrants.
Yeah.
Those would be ones that maybe if I was taking some notes,
yeah,
those might be nice ones to go back and be able to talk to the staff about, the team about, like with our team.
Right.
What are our capacity challenges coming up?
Right. Yeah.
What's the real condition? We had a situation just recently where we went in and we had to remove and replace a bunch of valves. We didn't even replace pipe, but our valves were failing. And who thinks of a valve? You know,
right.
Occasionally people do, but definitely when you're having a water break, you're thinking of valves.
Absolutely. So
but
possibly
you gotta know what you got going on.
A takeaway from the state report card could be, these might be some good areas to ask ourselves about our own infrastructure.
Yeah.
What is our current capacity? Where are we? Right? What's the condition? How's our O&M, operation and maintenance of those systems looking? And then the big one, of course, is funding future needs.
Well, the question comes in is how are we doing for our city, for our needs?
Yeah.
Because every city's going to have.
And we're going to
different
come back
needs.
to that.
We're going to come back to that.
So let's keep moving
we have our
forward.
individual needs.
Yeah, let's take a look at the report card then. Here's how the state did as far as the report card on the different areas that were reviewed in the report card.
C plus. Man, that's great.
C.
Isn't that great?
I think in your family you said C's get degrees, right? And they do. They do. No doubt about that.
He's rude.
But C plus. Overall, that was kind of how the state fared.
Moderate mediocrity.
Hard to understand.
A slice of awesome.
Hard to understand what that really means, though.
Yeah. What does it mean?
Right.
What does it mean compared? We always like to compare. How does it mean to the nation?
Let's take a look. So how Utah compares, there's a couple of news articles that came out earlier this year. Most of you have probably seen them. Utah's whopping C plus on a White House infrastructure report was the best in the country.
Yes.
C plus, best in the country.
So
another one.
on a curve.
Yep. Utah's infrastructure, best in the country with a C grade.
That's amazing.
But lest we get too excited about our current condition, let's be reminded here that Utah has still billions with a B in infrastructure needs as water, sewer lines reach the end of life.
Yeah. That's tough.
So on the one hand,
we're behind.
Let's take 2 seconds and just be super proud that we're from the state of Utah.
We're best in everything.
I mean, is there another category that we could be leading out in the country?
Well, economy.
Absolutely.
Snow quality for sure.
Snow quality for sure.
We got some last
But how
year.
many lists does
There's
the
a lot
state
of
of
lists.
Utah land on in comparison to the rest of the country that we're not right near the top? Infrastructure now, we can add that to the list.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
before we get too
With a
proud,
mediocre grade.
let's remind ourselves, we still have billions of dollars
Yeah.
in need and a lot of work yet to be done in our infrastructure.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
we're going to move on. The report ended up with a couple of solutions that are suggested, and we're not going to talk a lot about them, but there they are. And we'll bring this up maybe a little later in the presentation.
Maybe just quick little notes on the sheet of paper. It's like, hey, these are gonna play a part in helping us move forward.
Yeah, the big solutions.
Some leadership, some finances,
Right.
Definitely.
So Tom,
Resilience.
we have talked about how the state compares, right?
Yes, we have.
But let's go to, oh, wait a minute. Awesome. So
Outstanding.
back to some fan mail.
For those of you who were asleep, you're not now.
No, that's kind of nice. Keep them
That is,
awake.
that is.
Tom, I want to read an email here from another one of our great colleagues, Scott Darrington in Pleasant Grove.
Love Scott.
Love Scott.
He's got like the Scott father of city management.
It's the Scott father.
Yes.
Okay, so Scott writes, I recently lost big in a college pick'em I do with some of my colleagues around the state.
Yes, he does.
I want to thank you, though, for your new book. So he got a copy of our new book,
Excellent.
How to Survive Your Next Public Hearing.
Outstanding.
That was a good book, a lot of good
Outstanding.
material. Tom and Matt, the principles that you teach in this book have really helped me cope with my embarrassing performance in the college pick'em. You are doing a great work and should be receiving my annual subscription to your podcast next week.
Outstanding. Outstanding.
Always nice to know we have great listeners out there and glad that we could be of service.
It's great that we can take what we do in government and apply it to our personal lives
Yeah,
and our
absolutely.
personal challenges.
Absolutely.
So congratulations. Good
Good to
job,
hear.
Scott. Thanks
Yeah,
for your support.
nice. Thank
And
you, Scott.
remember, go ahead, go down there, click subscribe, and like us and follow us. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and of course, Facebook. Hey, there we go.
Anything else before we go?
I don't know. I think there is. Oh, yes. Here we go. In my formerly nicotine-stained fingers.
What do you have?
Okay, be sure to like and subscribe that you don't miss another episode when we'll be featuring a heartwarming conversation story from a resident from.
Okay, I gotta help you. Back to the C
Where are we
grade
at? I was on
discussion.
this
It says conversion. Just start over. Start over.
Read all the words.
Read all the words.
You know, I didn't do that in grade school. Be sure to like and subscribe to not miss another episode. Next week, we'll be featuring a heartwarming conversion story from a resident from Spanish Fork. Once I was a NIMBY. Airs Wednesday at 10 a.m.
An incredible
NIMBY.
An incredible conversion story. Once I was a NIMBY.
What's a NIMBY?
Not in my backyard. Right?
Yeah, once I was a
Speaking
NIMBY.
of acronyms.
Yeah, speaking
Tune
of
in, an incredible conversion story. So
Okay.
we'll be bringing that to you next week. So we've talked about the state. Why is this discussion important for us as local municipal leaders? I thought it'd be helpful, Tom and I, to illustrate a few things. We're going to use good Mayor Ramsey, appreciate her leadership. It's going to be a great year at the Utah League. I loved her comments about working together. So let's look at South Jordan City for just a minute
Let's do.
to get our heads around this idea of why this whole discussion about infrastructure is important. Okay. So when you consider the likes of a South Jordan City, take a look at just the amount of revenue that flows through a city this size. Now, there are several cities larger, right? A lot of cities a lot smaller than South Jordan, but just think for a minute, $165 million flow through the city of South Jordan on an annual basis. And that includes their governmental funds, their general fund, their capital projects fund, and also their business fund. And that's business funds or enterprise funds. Those are the funds where it's your water utility, it's your sewer utility. So looking at all of that, that's a pretty sizable, my head kind of explodes when I think about hundreds of millions of dollars as a budget.
You know,
right?
Matt, knowing you're bald, it looks like your head did explode. Just say.
Good. The Utah League hair and makeup people do amazing work.
They really do.
So now consider for a minute South Jordan's capital assets, the infrastructure that it takes to support the work that a city of that size does. So take a look at this. You know, we're looking at hundreds of millions of dollars,
A bunch.
530 million
530 million.
between all funds. Just in the last fiscal year, South Jordan added 53 million new assets into governmental funds and 16 million to their business funds in
Right.
1 year.
Wow.
They're taking on that much new infrastructure.
No wonder they're so nervous over there.
No wonder Gary seems always so
Edgy?
edgy. No, just kidding. They do an amazing job.
Yeah.
And just look at what it would take to have to manage that kind of infrastructure. Now, most of us are a lot smaller than South Jordan.
Why? By far.
So does this discussion still mean anything to me?
Well, does it mean anything to us? Of course it does.
Yeah.
I mean, we're what? Washington Terrace, like 9,000 people and change.
Yeah. Well, let's look at an example. I'm from Plain City. I don't know how many people could tell you where Plain City is, but I'm raised in Plain City, Western Weber County. So I'm going to use a small city like the city I live in and love dearly, Plain City. So in comparison, Plain City is probably 7,000 residents by now. So in a given year, this last fiscal year, they had a total amount of revenue flowing through their city of about $5 million. Okay? So let's look at the capital assets that a city like Plain City is responsible to operate and maintain. Okay? $23 million. I want to say Plain City probably has 12 employees.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Right? And yet they're responsible to shoulder and maintain over time $23 million worth of infrastructure.
You know, Matt, it's not lost on me that mayor and council, they don't have a city manager out there, and they're just kind of relying on them and their staff.
Yeah.
They're running a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Yeah.
Think about it. They are board members on a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even this size of a city, if you had your own small business, if you had a coffee shop with this kind of revenue and this kind of stuff going on, or a pie shop, if you will,
Yeah.
that would be incredible. But they're running a multi-million-dollar corporation.
Well,
So there's some responsibility.
let's assume it was a private corporation.
Let's say it was.
How important to your bottom line would it be to make sure you're maintaining your assets, your capital assets?
It'd be critical.
Yeah,
It'd
absolutely.
be critical. You got to keep that in front of you.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Tom, you picked up on a little interesting factoid from Cameron this week about,
Oh yeah.
do you want to share that?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Schofield?
Yeah.
Schofield. I've been fishing up there.
Schofield Town.
Schofield Town.
What's interesting about Schofield?
Town, Schofield Town is the smallest participating city in Utah League of Cities and Towns. I believe it's 28 people. In fact, Sarah Montgomery is expecting in about 3 months. It's going to 29, I believe.
So we're 28 and 3/4
We're almost
in
there.
Schofield.
So we're almost 29.
So the smallest of
The
towns,
smallest city we've got.
28 residents.
Yes, and their number comes in it comes in almost $2 million in that asset.
So even the smallest of towns has almost $2 million of capital assets.
Almost a multi-million-dollar corporation,
Yeah.
multi-million.
Yeah.
With 28 people to support it
Absolutely.
and what other revenues they can get. But
Mm.
it shows the dynamics between their challenges in Schofield are the same challenges that from them to the largest participating city in the state. Those challenges are the same, just in a different piece of the pie.
Absolutely.
A different burden, but the burden is going to feel the same for every environment we're in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So
It's a challenge.
is this an
regardless.
important topic for all communities, regardless of size?
I think it's, absolutely. I think it's critical.
Critically important.
Yep.
Absolutely. I would absolutely agree. Love
You
it.
like the bumper music, don't you?
We love that. That's a good one.
This guy's going, dude, I just had lunch.
Well,
I would
because the
like to take
reality
a nap."
is, this is not easy work,
No.
right?
it's
You
hard.
like the challenge, kind of the eye of the tiger, right? It's, if this were easy, like Washington Terrace would have solved this years ago. Am I wrong?
No, you're right. We would have solved this years ago.
So
Sure.
this does not come without a lot of challenges. And we thought it'd be fair to really have a discussion about what are the challenges you all as elected officials and we as staff encounter when we're talking about this responsibility of infrastructure maintenance.
Absolutely. We're looking at things that are challenges that actually come at us from all kinds of environments.
Yeah.
We've got environments that we really can't control.
Sure.
We can have a voice in, but we can't control them. You look at things like even federal regulations. What are the licensing things we have to do? What are all those things that come in from outside that we really economy?
Right.
You've got economies that are either good or bad, and they impact us. Right now in Utah, we got great economies.
Yeah.
We got a challenge with personnel.
Yeah.
We've got to be able to get these people in here, and particularly in public works. When we're talking infrastructure, you're talking about those guys that can come in and work on everything from electrical to plumbing to concrete to framing, everything that you can imagine our public works team are doing.
Absolutely.
And that's a challenge that's out there that we really can't control. And by the way, we had a tornado.
We shared that tornado.
We did share that tornado.
I mean, it came through your city first, and then
Riverdale took it first.
Riverdale, then
They
Washington
shared with
Terrace,
us
and then South
and Washington
Ogden.
Terrace, the three amigos of
Yeah,
city government.
yeah,
down there.
absolutely. So the point here is, as we plan our infrastructure, we need to be thinking about, although a lot of this is out of our control.
Yeah.
What happens to our ability to fund this infrastructure in a down economy,
Right.
right? How does that impact our infrastructure planning, our projects, the things we want to do? So a responsible city would have some discussion around this idea of what are those external threats to our community as far as our infrastructure is concerned.
And actually really identify them.
Yeah. But now let's get to the
get to
ones that
work.
maybe we have a
Yeah.
little more control over. And those are some of these kind of internal kinds of challenges that a community can face when they're talking about infrastructure.
Matt, it's daunting.
Yeah.
When you look at so much that so many of our communities have to accomplish, 1 billion in requests for 50 million in capacity, right? With the
Absolutely.
grant, it can be overwhelming.
Yeah.
And you're looking at Mount Everest of projects you've got to take care of, whether you're Schofield or Salt Lake City or whoever in between.
Yeah. So there
It's-
could be a
it's
level of
daunting.
defeatism, right?
Yeah.
When you stare at how much it's going to take,
Yeah.
it could be real easy to go, let's just pass it on and let the next administration, the next council worry about
Kick
it.
the can.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it is extremely daunting.
Yep. Well, because we're kind of, we really don't want to be that council member that raises taxes or actually implements a property tax in a city that hasn't had a property tax forever.
Right.
But you've got to fund that infrastructure. You got to find ways to make that work.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's a hard decision.
So a lot of political pressure
There's a lot of political
as an
pressure.
elected official to go, okay, even if I understand the need,
Yeah.
whew, how do we fund it?
Yeah.
Right? And how do I manage that politically? And we're going to talk a little bit maybe about some ideas later on some best practices.
Yes.
To help give some ideas on, if you're put in that position, ways that maybe you can navigate that.
Well, in navigating that, a lot of times we're going to look at those neighbors next door, whether for us, whether we're looking at Riverdale or South Ogden, we're going, well, what are they doing? How much are they funding? How are they making this work? Yeah. It's my infrastructure.
Right.
I can't look to you guys to determine,
fair enough.
as amazing as you guys are, and as special as you, weren't you looking at changing the name of our city to East South Ogden?
No.
Or West South Ogden?
No,
Or
never.
I thought you were looking
No,
at changing the city. Oh, okay. My bad.
I think it was you guys wanting to be called West South Ogden.
I think that's what we're looking at. For. Yeah.
But you bring up a good point. Inevitably, elected officials, when you talk about rates, you're talking about your infrastructure, you're talking about all these utilities.
Yeah.
It can be really tempting to go, well, what are the neighbors charging?
Right.
What are the rates of the other cities around
Yeah.
us? I think it's a really fair question, but we've got to be careful.
But I guess it's kind of like a market study. You got to know that you're kind of within some brand of a market, but you're still dealing with your challenges.
Because in reality, my infrastructure is my infrastructure.
Yeah.
My infrastructure needs could be drastically different than yours.
Yeah.
Given the geography of our cities, given the makeup of our soils, even, given the age of certain systems, right?
Yeah. Like a wood pipe.
Yeah, we actually had a wood pipe that we discovered, not in use, but they were digging up to do a repair, and I've got a picture of this metal wire wrapped wood pipe.
Awesome.
That's about 12 inches in the ground. So,
Awesome.
so yeah, I think that's I think some good advice for newly elected officials is, although inevitably councils are going to want to know, how do we compare? Base the decision on what are the needs of our community and our system.
Right.
Because they could be different.
Yeah.
And that's probably should carry more of the weight than, well, we just don't want to be higher than the neighbor, or, because the needs are different.
But one thing to consider when you're looking at your neighbor is, how can you effectively work together? For instance, with our cities, we share a water source, essentially.
Right.
We take your water towers.
Yeah, we deliver
your
some water
storage
to help
for
you
our
at times.
emergency backup.
Yep.
And you wheel that. We do that with a wheeling agreement, and we
Yeah.
pay you money like always. But we work together on that infrastructure where it makes sense.
Where it makes sense.
Where it makes sense. That's an important phrase. Where
Yeah,
it makes
absolutely.
sense.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So some of the internal challenges, right, that inevitably elected officials will come across as you're having these discussions about infrastructure.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
that's great. And we're going to talk a little bit.
Okay.
All right.
Are you awake yet? We're ready. We're good to
So,
go. Okay.
Tom, I want to share an email from one of our colleagues in St. George. We love St. George.
Love it down
Adam
there.
Lenhard, city manager down there, writes,
Yep. So,
Matt and Tom, I wanted to thank you both for last week's story. Now, Tom, have you heard the acronym CAVE people?
yeah, it's like I think it was a horror movie from back in the day that people would come out of the caves and.
No.
Oh.
Citizens Against Virtually Everything.
Oh yeah,
Cave
people.
Cave people.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
okay.
that's important. So Adam writes, thank you both for last week's story, Beyond the Cave, about the mountaineer guy in West Jordan named Corbin, who rescued an entire neighborhood from cave people.
Nice.
It was life-changing. Keep up the good work. And please come golf in St. George anytime on me.
Man, that
Whoa.
is generous.
That is nice. Adam, we're going to take you up on that.
We
Thank
appreciate
you.
Adam. Make a note of that. will
Super
ya?
nice. Super
That
nice.
is outstanding. Outstanding. Oh, here we go. This one's a great one. We look forward to this. We've enjoyed David Church for years.
Oh, David Church. Who doesn't know David Church's name,
Who
right?
doesn't know David
Former
Church?
general counsel of the Utah League.
Yes. He's like the wise guy.
Recently retired, probably
Yeah,
a year or so
recently
ago.
retired. Well, he's working on his memoirs.
Oh,
He
tell me
is.
more.
He is. Well, we have him coming. Next week, we'll have the fan favorite, David Church, joining us on a podcast to talk about his new book. Yes, you might be the idiot.
Oh,
Be sure to tune in. for
David
that one.
finally wrote the book.
He did. He wrote the
You
book
might
on
be-
You Might Be.
You know, David had a funny saying.
He have a
and-
funny saying, be talking in front of all of us. And he says, if you can't identify the idiot, it might be you.
That was one of
So
the.
it was
He
his
finally
favorite.
wrote a book
He's
about it.
the only one on all of the earth that could ever say that,
That's great.
except for
Yeah.
me and you, apparently.
David can get away with that kind of stuff.
Yes, he can. He's a
Yeah.
wise
He was close
old-
to retirement.
So
you
we're
know,
looking
and probably
forward.
get a
we're
little
looking
more,
forward to
a
hearing
little
from
more
Dave.
comfortable when you're
Yep.
that close to
Yep.
retirement.
So
So
let's move on.
excited to hear about David's new book. All right. So Tom, now, oh gosh, I either want to go hunt something or buy a truck when I hear this. I don't know. Yeah, it's like, seems like a truck commercial.
Does.
So what are the opportunities?
You know,
We
I'm
talked
just
about
glad
the
this is such
state-
a good show. You know, just such a good opportunity to talk with Utah.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Isn't it great?
And an important topic.
It is. I want to go buy a truck.
I don't know why that music just makes me want to go buy a truck.
It makes you smile.
So let's
doesn't
talk about opportunities.
it? All right.
Tom, what do we got?
You know, first of all, you've got to look at, we got to catch up on our slides here. That's what we got to do.
We do our best.
We do, but sometimes we get behind, especially when I'm in charge of the.
It's okay. You wanted to click that one.
But I like clicking it.
It's you.
Regardless, you know, we really need to look at what's coming up in the future. We talk about all of those best practices of knowing where we want to go and really seeing what that horizon looks like. So as a newly elected official, I'd want to really get in with my staff, learn, grow, understand, and then be able to help guide the discussion on what we're trying to accomplish in our cities.
Yeah.
Knowing what that future really looks like. And I think we can get a lot of information from our staff and some of the people that we work
So I'm
with.
hearing a little of maybe Covey's principle, begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
Like, what is our community? What are we looking at in the next 30, 40, 50 years? I mean, Wasatch Front Regional Council, what, are they on that like their 2080 plan now? I mean, they do an excellent job of getting out there into the
Forecasting.
future, right?
What does the future really
Yeah.
look like? Well, you know, and here's the thing is that as we consider that, we need to know what's under the ground.
Right.
We've got engineers, we've got GIS people, and if we don't, then we can have our engineering consultant work with this and get the data dialed in so we know what's under the ground so that we can make those improvements. Because without understanding that, we might not be able to take care of
Perfect.
that future vision.
Perfect. And it doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to say our community is going to be this in 50 years and not tie that back to, well, what are our current infrastructure needs
Where are we now?
and what are they going to be in 50 years? And what are we doing today to help ourselves in 50 years so that vision, that community that we all want to have can be realized? Because we've done the infrastructure planning, you know, to get us there.
And that planning is going to be critical, whether it's transportation, parks, water, sewer, storm, an airport, fiber.
Yep.
All of those things are going to come into play on being able to track where we're going to go.
And who sets the vision for the direction of the community? Where is the city going? Who sets the vision?
That vision honestly comes from the mayor and council
Absolutely.
and the community.
Yep.
The mayor and council being linked into the community, having some community surveys, understanding what they want. And I tell you what, when you're looking at what's important, you got to have clean water coming in and dirty water coming out. If you don't have that, you're pretty much struggling to be a community.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we got to get those things right. And I think that's an important takeaway that's the opportunity. As newly elected officials, they're in a great position to become a part of that envisioning of the future of the community.
Yeah.
And infrastructure, you've got to bring along in that discussion.
Yeah,
It's
for sure.
critical.
For sure.
Oh,
Hey, I think this is a great one. Matt, wait. Matt, I'm lost. But I do want to talk about Bob the Builder.
I know Bob
Do you
the
remember
Builder.
Bob the Builder?
My
the
kids,
cartoon?
my kids grew up loving to watch the little cartoon Bob the Builder. We bought all the Bob the Builder toys. I don't see much of Bob the Builder anymore.
No, but he was awesome. When I was a contractor,
Yeah.
I'd come on my jobs, and if there was little kids, on a renovation project, it's
Yeah.
like, hey, Bob the Builder,
Bob the
how
Builder.
you doing?
You
man?"
kind of could look like Bob the
I
Builder.
could be
the
Bob the Builder.
Construction hat on.
So anyways,
What's up with Bob the Builder?
is coming to the U of U as a guest speaker. Apparently, he now makes most of his money speaking.
He travels and speaks.
He's a talking head, if you
Awesome.
will.
Why is he coming to the U of U?
I don't know, but anyway, he's coming to help us solve our housing crisis.
Bob the Builder has ideas
Bob
for
the Builder
our
has
housing
ideas.
crisis.
The title of his speech is Utah, we can figure this out. You're not that dense.
I like it.
You're not that
Bob the
dense.
Builder.
That
You're
was
not that
fun.
dense. We can
That was a
figure
little
this out.
play,
On the
stupid
density,
and
the zoning, housing.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a dad joke.
It's a dad. It's
The other
good.
day I fell off my bike.
I think at this point,
It
we're
was too
open
tired.
for anyone's ideas to help solve the housing crisis. And if Bob the Builder has some ideas,
Yeah. You
let's,
didn't like my other joke,
let's
did you?
listen. Did I miss it?
When I fell over on my bike. Yeah, I was too tired.
Oh,
That's a good dad
that's
joke.
pretty good. All right. Hey, we got to wrap up. I'm seeing
Yeah,
Cam
we do.
get
We got to
nervous.
roll. They're giving us this thing.
So Tom, speaking to newly elected officials, it's made
Yes.
me remember kind of when you got started, when I first met you. I mean, there's kind of being green, and then there's like Tom Hanson green, if I may.
Thank you.
I mean, I love you. You know I do.
I take it.
But
I'll
I
accept it.
have to just, I think this will help a lot of newly elected officials appreciate the fact that you showed up to your first Meg Ryan luau training
Yeah, but here's the thing is I had never been to one, and I lived in Hawaii for 2 years.
in your like flowered shirt and a khaki shorts. And
Yeah.
I think you may have a grass.
There was
skirt.
no grass skirt, but I did have a lake.
Unreal.
Yeah, went to our luau. What's a luau?
It's the Land Use Academy of Utah.
Oh, okay.
And
So
the
it's
newly
no
elected officials are going to learn a lot about that. It's an incredible resource.
pig, but no Kahlua pig.
Don't expect smoked pig or whatever.
Okay,
at
okay.
the,
my
at the
bad.
luau.
Gotcha.
So-
Gotcha.
That was a good time, Tom.
Yep. Okay,
Where we
moving
at? All right.
along. We are coming down to the landing zone.
So what is and Tom and I talked about this, right? For our listeners, we were
Yeah.
like, okay, if they could only take away one slide
Yeah.
and one piece of information, like what's that?
This is it.
And we didn't want to lead with that because then they wouldn't have paid attention till the end.
No, because this has been an awesome show.
I've enjoyed being with you. It's been
I've
great.
enjoyed being with
I
you.
appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So what are we going home with?
They've got to know the planning.
Yeah.
They've got to get a plan. They've got to detail it and get the information out of the heads of their people
Yeah.
and out of the GIS system and understand it. Get some
Absolutely.
planning.
And a lot of cities probably already have really good plans. So the invitation would be get to know those plans,
Dig into them.
right?
Get it to them.
Find out what's in
prioritize
there. Yeah, absolutely.
Get them so you know what's important.
Because those capital plans will outline the capital projects
Yeah.
that are going to be needed for that community over so many years,
Yes.
right?
And so many years of long-term financial planning.
Yes.
How are we going to bring this together and pay for it? Because bottom line is whether you're a South Jordan or a Schofield,
Yeah.
you got to figure out that long-range
Gotta
plan
figure out a
for,
way.
for the money.
Absolutely. And we've got to look at, are we collecting enough revenue today to
Yep.
fund those projects that we expect to undertake
Yep.
in year 5, year 8, year 10?
Do you have the people in place to do it?
Yeah,
Do you have the people, the consultants, those who can help you get that across the finish line?
absolutely. Lean on the professionals, lean on the people that can help advise you, right? Elected officials aren't expected necessarily to understand all of the details of this,
Get
right?
your staff to help.
Get the people around you that you have, whether it's employees or contracted help, to help you understand the decisions, the policies that need to be made
Yeah.
in order to have sustainable long-range infrastructure.
And if you will, way leads on to way and communicate it.
Yeah,
Get that information out. Talk with your people.
absolutely.
When's the best time to start doing this?
So before, we've got to touch on leadership.
Do we?
Yeah, you clicked
I
too
wanted
fast on
to-
that one. But I think that's one of the biggest ones, leadership and communication.
Yeah.
As a newly elected official, inevitably, I would argue you're going to be in a position where you understand what the needs are. You're going to understand what it's going to take to have sustainable infrastructure. And you're going to be put in a position between, I know what needs to be done, but it's going to hurt a little bit or a lot.
Yeah.
And that takes great political leadership. It takes great resolve
Some
to
courage.
do what's long-term best for the community in exchange for sometimes some short-term political gains that feel good.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that might be some of the reasons we're behind in a lot of our infrastructure.
Yeah.
Is that it becomes really hard to go, do I want to be the elected official known to have raised rates to fund infrastructure, or to have just built that next monument or the next park?
Parks
Some of
look
this
fun.
infrastructure is not super sexy.
Yeah.
Can I
Did
say
you
that?
just say sexy
I'm
in
sorry.
Utah?
Yeah, but it's not. But it's critically important for the quality of life that we enjoy in Utah and hope to enjoy into the future. So
Yeah.
I just want to highlight and emphasize and re-emphasize the importance of that last one. It takes the political will and political leadership to do these things. Now
Mine.
Now you go.
Okay. Here's the thing, is that from my park days, there'd
Yeah.
be so many times we'd go in there and go, man, I wish we had some really cool trees. And of course, the old guy would say, well, best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah.
But the second best time to plant a tree would be today.
Today.
Same thing with infrastructure. The best
Absolutely.
time to have been planning for this is over the last 20 years, and maybe your team has. But Matt, if they haven't,
Start today. Go figure out where you are,
What's
what the
going on?
need is, and figure out what you're willing to take on as a council
Yeah.
to improve your city's infrastructure.
yeah, good advice, Matt. I think that's
Yeah.
our show, buddy.
Man, Tom, I think we've covered all that we hope to cover today on our show.
Tom, let me get my pen.
Again, like and subscribe, and we hope to be back again next week. Talk to David Church.
Yep. Talk to Dave Church.
All right.